Seriously.
So I always thought you were always from here, but you haven't always been from here.
No, Alton's
Yeah.
a discovery for me.
Yes, right. So you've been here for 16 years now,
Yes.
right? But I don't know if I know a whole lot about where you grew up and what your childhood was. You know,
Well, I was born in New York.
you were born in New York.
Yes.
Is that right?
So I'm
Okay, New York
technically
City.
from New York. No, in Ithaca. My
Ithaca.
parents were,
Okay.
my father was teaching at Cornell and my mother at Ithaca College.
Wow.
So that's where I was born. And then they got jobs at Principia College and we moved to Elsah,
Right.
which is just 15 miles north. Alton, when I came back to visit my father, was, and then a friend said, you know, come in, stay with me for a while. Childhood friend, Lynn Burnett.
Lynn, right. I remember that.
So I suddenly discovered there was this depth behind
Right.
the main street, and that a lot of people lived here, and a lot of interesting
Yeah.
people, and a lot of amazing neighborhoods, great diversity. So Alton has been a continuing discovery for me.
Right. Yeah. So you were in Elsah and St. Louis.
Yes, I didn't have a car, and
Right.
I rode my bike and ran up and down the bluffs to visit Principia College, and
Right.
and rode the bus to St. Louis.
Right, yeah. And that's what a lot of people experience Alton that way too, when they just drive through, go to Grafton,
Yep.
or head up north or something like that, go to Pere Marquette, yeah, they just drive right through. Yeah. So growing up in Elsah, where'd you go from there? So what high school did you go to?
I went to the Principia High School in St. Louis.
Okay, yeah. And then from there, where'd you go? Because I don't know this stuff, you know?
Well, actually, I ended up staying. My mother passed away when I was just starting college, so I ended up staying and went to Principia College, which I had not intended to do, but I'm really glad I did. I
Okay,
stayed,
yeah.
helped my father and my brothers, and then felt I needed to leave immediately. So
Okay.
right after graduation,
From college.
after college,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah,
right.
I left and went to, I was on my way to Washington, D.C. to take an internship at the National Gallery, but on the way I stopped in New York and had some time and stayed with friends and explored the possibilities there, and ended up getting a job in New York.
New York City.
Yeah.
Right. So you went from Elsah
To New York.
to New York City.
Yes, yes.
Almost to D.C.
Yes.
Almost to Washington, D.C.
Right.
What did you major in?
Art history and French.
Okay, cool. So you were looking for a job in a gallery, in a museum.
I thought I wanted to work in a museum,
Right.
but discovered actually my typing skills weren't fast enough. So for someone with just a college degree,
Right.
I wasn't ready to step into a high-level position. And yeah, they were looking at typing skills, and I didn't have the typing skills, but I got offered a job at an auction house and then at an art gallery, and I
Really?
took that job at the art gallery, and it was wonderful. It was better than any museum job. It blended my interest in art and in business, working with people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What's the difference between a gallery and a museum in art?
A museum is usually, well, I should say, a gallery is commercial. A gallery
Commercial,
is
yeah.
usually selling artwork, and a museum is putting on exhibitions for the public.
Okay. And then you said you worked for an auction house.
I was offered a job at
You were offered a
Sotheby's,
job.
but I
at Sotheby's.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, you're hitting the big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you got a job at a gallery in New York City.
I did.
Yeah.
And
What was that gallery? Do you remember?
It was David Finley Galleries.
Okay.
And I was really fortunate. It was a family-owned gallery, and the one of the sons was running the gallery and really took me under his wing and said, I have these things for you to do, and beyond that, the sky's the limit. So I had a wonderful time going to auctions, buying artwork, selling artwork, researching, and loved it. And he split off from his family. A year or two later, we started our own gallery.
Yeah.
And several years after that, he decided to become a private dealer. I loved what I was doing, and so at 26, I started my own gallery.
Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Right in Manhattan,
Yes.
in the middle of New York City.
Yeah.
Right. Where was it at?
It was on 57th Street.
57th Street. Okay. That's
That was the main
north
artery.
of, like the Broadway Arts District. I mean, the theater district.
Right.
Or up. Yeah.
Right.
It's near Central Park, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And at that time, when I was there, starting in the early 80s, 57th Street was the only place to be if you had an art gallery.
Okay. Right.
That and maybe Soho. Things
Yeah.
have changed now. It's all sort of moved to Chelsea.
Okay. Right. Right. Well, I mean, I imagine being in the art scene, I mean, you got to experience a lot of great artwork and, I mean, artists and wonderful people that were there.
I did.
I mean, amazing. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. What were some of the things you remember about those days?
Well, it was, I was meeting really interesting people. I was
Yeah.
representing artists that were fascinating, understanding
Yeah.
their different lifestyles and appreciating their perspective, making decisions about whether or not I wanted to represent that person. So I was a national agent for these artists and,
Right.
and met fascinating clientele. So a lot of people that became longtime loyal clients and a lot of celebrities, actually.
So you were, I mean, that was what you did. I mean, you left Elsah and you were in New York City.
Yes.
Like full on. And you were there during the Renaissance of New York City, essentially.
Yes.
Right? So you're there when New York was broke.
Yes.
And now it's this, you know, it's thriving now,
Yeah.
I guess, more or less.
Yeah.
And so you were there during all of that. You saw the Renaissance of New York City.
Yes. And I could enjoy all of New York City. Most people, when they move to New York, now have to live deep in another borough, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
hours into the city. And I was living in the heart of Greenwich Village and could
Yeah.
walk everywhere and go to museums and go to the ballet and go to the opera and symphony. It was fabulous to really
Right.
partake
Yeah.
of the whole cultural scene.
Right. So from there, how'd you get back to Alton?
So I was visiting my father. We lived in Greenwich Village and witnessed the fall of the trade towers on 9/11. So that was a very profound, pivotal moment for me and my husband, and made us sort of rethink our lives and rethink our careers. And after that, I ended up closing my gallery, and was
After 9/11.
in
Yeah, after that time.
in 2002,
Yeah.
and was a private art consultant, private dealer, but was really searching for what I wanted to do next that was going to be meaningful to myself and to others.
Yeah.
So, and it was a very sort of tumultuous
Yeah.
transitional time for me. So I came back to visit my father. While I was here, my childhood friend, Lynn Burnett, reconnected with me and said, you know what, you need to come stay with us. And she was familiar with Alton, but lived in Godfrey. I also was asked to volunteer at Jacoby Art Center, which I was thrilled about. None of that I had been aware of, or as I said, all I knew was the grocery store. So I came back, discovering Alton, seeing it through a different lens, having lived in New York.
Right.
And it suddenly occurred to me that maybe I didn't have to move back to New York City. It was the sparkle of the river that really captivated me.
Really?
The
Yeah.
energy of that. As I said, I lived just up the street here, and I got a small dog and would walk my dog on the brick streets and look out at the river and
Yeah.
felt this tremendous current of energy and vitality. And it was very healing.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. It was like life carries on. And ended up thinking, well, maybe I could stay here.
Yeah.
And started looking at some of the wonderful houses in Middletown, the historic houses that were so beautiful and so reasonable compared to New York City prices. And fortunately, even though I saw this wonderful 1830s house that I thought I'd really love to buy that and live there, my friend Lynn said, "Are you kidding? You don't like to drive. You hardly have a car, and the idea of 4 bedrooms and a lawn, that was just way too much than I needed."
Oh, I
and
see.
so it was the river that really inspired me to look downtown. And I loved the industrial landscape of downtown with the flour mills and the railroad and the energy of barges on the river, and learned about a building that had been the Mississippi Lime headquarters for the lime company, and prior to that had been the Illinois Terminal Railroad headquarters, and heard that was for sale, being sold privately. And I thought, boy, this is amazing. Has these unobstructed views of the river, this great masonry architecture, fabulous building. I wonder if that could be lost. I'd like to live there. And as that idea kind of percolated, I needed to submit a bid for the building, a closed bid. And I asked my father to do a watercolor rendering of the building with the idea of this conversion into a mixed-use building with commercial on the bottom and residential lofts. And he did this little watercolor, and I think it really sold both the company and the city on the idea that, wow, this is a novel idea. Somebody's going to actually do something with the building.
Okay, yeah.
And I was awarded the building with my bid. So that was the beginning of building my home, and a 2-year project, which was really exciting.
Right.
Steep learning curve about construction.
Yeah.
And ended up moving in 2008.
Okay.
All of the condominiums sold, all of the lofts sold.
Right. What is the building called now? Like, how do people
Mississippi
refer to it?
Landing.
Mississippi Landing, right, yeah.
Yeah. The discovery here was sort of the natural beauty of the environment.
Right.
And then as time went on, this really compelling creative culture that these locally owned shops, again, because I don't like to drive, I would walk most places, and I could walk downtown to restaurants, or walk to shops, or to the library, or to Jacoby Art Center, and I loved that. And I loved the fact that all the businesses were family owned or locally owned, and they all had unique character. They had history and great kind of patriotic spirit about being in Alton. So that was one of the great benefits. As time went on, I discovered that along with the great natural beauty of being able to look out at the river, look out at 4,000 acres of migratory bird sanctuary and the Audubon Center, and to participate in some of the great depth of artistic culture, the Alton Symphony and Alton Little Theater, that there really is this wonderful community that's very accepting, that's very welcoming, and that this was a town that had really a welcoming sense about it. That if I was invited to be on a number of community boards, and if I was interested, there was a spot, and one could get involved. And in New York, everything was very siloed. I was very much sort of involved in my own art gallery and my own sort of little section of life, whereas Alton seemed this open, very accepting, very tolerant, and inviting community, and where one can really make a difference.